Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and today we're looking at the Vestas wind turbine set 10268 from 2018. Now the first thing to say is that this is a really tall set. It's over 40 inches in height, or over 103 centimetres, and that makes it practically impossible to keep in shot, definitely on my building desk anyway. So you'll have to believe me that the rest of this is up there, quite a way up there, and even when I have it going, you can't even see the bottom of the blade in shot, but you can hear it, so it is there. I'll show you more of that later. Now, as you probably know, this set was originally done as a limited edition for, I think for Vestas themselves, set 4999, which was released in 2008, and it was pretty much the exact same set with a couple of changes like the new flower pieces and the fact that we've got printed pieces where we had stickers before for the Vestas van, the sides of the top of the actual turbine, and the minifigure chest pieces. And this is actually a problem in a way, because I think with this set being so similar to that released for almost a private enterprise, I think you can tell that the, not lack of quality, but lack of playability or, I don't know, fun or usefulness in a city is just not there. There's quite a few things that I don't like about this set. To start with, let's start with the van. It's a pretty accurate van, no doubt looks like real Vestas vans, but it's just really quite boring. It's also got a yellow number plate on and nothing on the back, which is easily changed, but it's just not very exciting. I mean, I just want to add something or do something to improve this, so I just can't get excited about that at all. Second, we've got these loose chairs. Not a massive fan of those, though they do look quite good from the back, but I'd almost think there's must be a better way of doing those. But this house is just very, very small. It's very low in depth, one story. It's even only 5 bricks tall in this section. It just doesn't look right at all. So I'm not a great fan of it. And sure, when you set the thing going, it demonstrates the lights. But for me, that's what this set is. It's almost like a demonstrator model for proof, in a way, that these turbines generate electricity and electricity powers lights. It's almost making that sort of obvious link. Now, at least I can use these pieces productively elsewhere. There's a lot of nice roof pieces, fence pieces, flower pieces, even tree pieces, because the second big problem is the hill at the back. I think that it just looks like a massive, all of a sudden, tabletop of a hill. It's not very natural at all. They've tried with a few bamboo pieces and so on, and a couple of slope pieces, but it's just not doing it for me. I think the hill is just far too sudden and messy in a way, with gaps in it and a bench up here with no way of getting into it, and dark grey brick here. I mean, maybe that's a stone, light grey there. It just looks a mess. And then you've got this door on the back, which actually technically would open up onto, well, nothing, essentially, because you would just have to fall off this cliff to get in it. Now, with the fact that the head at the top is so big, you couldn't put this nearer to a wall than about 8 or 9 studs anyway, which means that the hill would have this big gap behind it, even if you pushed it against the wall. So this open face doesn't make much sense either. And then add to even that, this is where the switch is. So to make it go around, you have to pull this out, which means, again, you can't have this pressed up against anything, because you won't be able to operate it. Indeed, it wouldn't even allow you to anyway, because it stands proud. So there's a lot of problems with this set. However, having said that, I do like the turbine itself. It's an impressive scale, and it's an impressive design at the top. We'll look at that shortly, but focusing on the bottom, I'm not particularly impressed. Now the good thing is, I can use a lot of these pieces. As I said before, I can use a lot of the pieces from the house. I can definitely use the minifigures, I can use the glasses, the dog, all sorts of things, and the base plate. So most of these bits won't go to waste. It's not like I've wasted my money. But I think we can do better. One simple fix is with the van. I've got a pair of number plates I got from a Bricklink order, PN7747. Now, ironically, these actually come from a wind turbine transport vehicle released in 2009, and I just picked these up for a few pennies each, and I'm going to peel one of the stickers off this piece and put it on one of the rear doors, so like there or something like that, and the other one I'm just going to do a straight swap for this yellow number plate that's blank and improve it that way. So that's something I can do straight away. And here is the van with its new number plates. Made it even more white, but nonetheless, I think that's an improvement. It just makes it a bit more consistent with the rest of the vehicles in my city. And I did forget to show you the tools in the back, which includes sort of a pot there, the normal tools there, and a dolly with some oxyacetylene torches sort of thing, cutting, welding equipment on the back, which is all very fun. So at least it's got some good function if the sides are a little boring. My plans for the turbine though are to remove in its entirety the house and to remove in entirety the hill and have this coming out of flat ground. Now, the reason why this hill exists, of course, is because it conceals a battery box, which if you take off that piece, you can see also has two jumpers there. One's for the lights, which I'm going to remove and use elsewhere. I'm sure I can use that in a train or something like that, or fairground later on. And the second one goes up all the way to the motor, just a medium motor that's right in the top of the turbine. So if I want to do this on flat ground, then I'm going to have to find somewhere else to put a battery box. And what I'm going to do is have that on further extension cables going away from where I'm going to locate this, going underneath the tables and linking to a battery box where I can use the switch in a much more easily reached location. And I might even build it into some of the scenery, kind of like it is here, but built into some scenery where A, it won't need a huge hill to accommodate it, but B, where I can press some innocuous feature in a hillside or something like that, and that turn on the turbine from far away. And that means that you will never sort of see an obvious play feature, but nonetheless there will be one known only to me. Well, and you. Now, rather than using the existing mechanism for holding up the turbine, which is very multicoloured and quite tall, I decided to make my own because this would be quite visible and unnecessarily tall. So if we put that to one side, what I've designed is this. Now, the real one will be mounted on a green base plate in my city, so this is just a mock-up to show you how it would work. I've got steps coming up the back to go to the door, which will be lowered down to marry well with them. And I've got 4 of these 2x2 modified tiles to do the same job as the bracket within the hill. Furthermore, I've got a 1x4 arch piece, which is to allow the cable out one side. Now, originally I didn't put this black tile in to give some space for the cable to get out, but it turned out that having it jammed between the bottom of the turbine and this tile actually meant that it didn't wobble, because it does wobble a little bit just because these aren't a really strong perfect connection. But this setup's just made from some leftover pieces that I had, so it's really quite efficient. Then when it comes out of this, the cable, it can just be hidden by something like this, some of these curved slope pieces, and vanish under the base plate. So if I replace these two 1x4 green tiles with white ones, I'll take that off temporarily. Should be able to get this into position and replace the arch piece. And although this will need a bit more pieces in here, as it had before, to fill in that gap by building on the front of the turbine there, and I'll need to bring this door down to here, and it will need some plates behind it there and so on, and another step. It will marry pretty well with very, very little showing above the surface, and I think that this actually will look a lot more realistic than it being based on some huge square hill. And here is the top section. As you can see, it's just impossible to show in shot. I'm going to take off all the blades as well. So at the top of this we have the printed panel pieces with Vestas written on, which are very good. And inside this hatch we have the medium motor. Now, one of the improvements that I'm going to try and make is, as I said, to try and get this to be activated remotely from a concealed battery box that won't be in a big hill. And therefore I need as much slack as I can get from the power cable to achieve a maximum distance from the base using as few extension cables as possible. And one of the things in building this, as per the instructions, is that you gain, well, quite a lot of slack in the top. So what I'm going to try and do is amend this, so rather than being connected, say, about here down the stem, I'll move it down as much as I possibly can, which will have the effect that the cable at this end gets even longer. Now, the first stage is, rather than having the motor attached to the first extension cable within the back box, right up here, managed to thread the motor cable through the turntable, meaning that the first connection can actually happen way down here as opposed to way up here. So that's already saving a good sort of 6 inches or 15 centimeters worth of cable, I think. Right, so I can't attach this back onto the top until I've got both sides of the column together, but I've put the two power cables together there, just inside there. So remember, this was right back in the back compartment of the header of the turbine, and now it's here, and that will enable us to move the next one down from here all the way down to, I think, there. So that saved us, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 and 7, so what's that, 20 studs. That's quite an improvement. So originally I was going to have my wind turbine near my farm, which will be in the diagonal corner from the harbour when we eventually get there. But the more I thought about it, the more I didn't like that location, because the farm will be near to the fairground, and a lot of the fairground rides will be going round and round and round. So just having another thing that's going round and round right next to it isn't going to make it very distinct. So I thought it much better to locate it somewhere else. Meanwhile, I had this problem over here of not being able to utilise this corner by the railway tracks effectively at all. So it seemed to solve a problem there as well. So you can see what I've done is put the small dark bluish grey base onto the green base plate in the corner and mounted the turbine on that. And close up you can see the holes have been filled in with grey bricks at the front, and there's some steps at the back leading up to the door which has been moved down to accommodate for the difference in base. So now that cable that we poked through now runs all the way under the table from the bottom of the turbine along this table edge to this battery box. It comes up onto the top of the table at the moment. Now there will be two railway bridges here going over the entrance to the bay, and I'm hoping to incorporate either this battery box or a different battery box into that cliff face. You won't be able to see it, but you'll be able to press some bit of rock or something like that, James Bond style, and something will happen. And the thing that will happen is that the turbine will go round. But for now, we're just going to have to pull the switch. Now it's quite hard to see against the wall, but let's give it a test run. It works. We better check that the train can still get by. It fits. Well, I'm really happy with the location of that. I think it'd get a good coastal breeze, being elevated as it is and near the coast. It's not too close to any buildings or anything else that it would hit them. And it's got a clutch gear even if it did hit something. And from the centre of the room where we are now, you can see very clearly the Vestas logo, so I think it's a good spot. Well, as always, thank you very much for watching. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks, I think we'll move more into the centre of the city and start the marina. See you next time!